So today I've got something very special for you guys, especially you Saab subscribers out there. I am driving a Saab 97X. So with the 97X, this was based off of GM's platform that they used for many of their crossovers and SUVs about 10 years ago. So this car shares a lot of parts with the Trailblazer, the Buick Rainier, etc. There's a few cars that this shares a lot of parts with. And this car got a lot of crap because people were just like, isn't this basically just a more expensive Trailblazer? Like, why would you want to buy this? So I want to start off by discussing some of the differences with this car compared to the normal GM products based on the same chassis. So number one is the ride. This has Saab's suspension on it, so it is a very comfortable ride, especially when you compare it to the GM variants of this car. The road I'm driving on right now isn't perfect, but it is just gliding over these bumps. It's very comfortable in here. I mean, I'm having no complaints with the ride. Next up is the interior. The interior of this car is all Saab. So you've got the Saab nice comfortable leather seats, you've got the Saab wood paneling, the Saab stereo system here, which is pretty nice. I haven't really messed with it at all yet, and I don't really want to. But everything on the interior is Saab, so you've got a lot more quality versus the cheap, crappy GM plastic. I mean, all these buttons are still pretty much plastic for the most part, but they're definitely a step up from the atrocious GM plastic that you would see in other GM products of this era. So, this car has the 4.2 liter straight six in it. It's the base trim level. So there were also a 5.3 liter V8 and the 6 liter LS2 engine available for this car. This car from factory makes about 285 horsepower, and it is four-wheel drive, but the owner did something quite smart. He actually made this rear-wheel drive by moving the component that drives the front wheels. He just took that out of the car because, I mean, for those of you that live in Phoenix, Arizona, or in Arizona in general, you don't really need a four-wheel drive car. So removing that doesn't really help with performance at all, but again, this isn't really a performance car, so it is currently just rear-wheel drive. So the owner did mention that is good for a little bit of help. I mean, it will help you on gas a bit, which is nice, and again, you don't really need a four-wheel drive car in Arizona, unless you live up north or something. So these cars are very cheap today, especially this base model. You can probably pick one up for around $5,000 or $6,000 pretty easily, depending on the mileage. But this one doesn't have too many miles on it. This is actually the owner's third 97X. He had two 5.3 liter V8s before. And again, this car isn't as quick as that other one. It's not meant to be a performance car, but we can give it a little bit of gas coming out of this red light here and just see how it responds to the throttle. Oh yeah, this is... That was 50 miles an hour right there, but I mean, it didn't throw me back in my seat at all. It is a naturally aspirated engine, straight six. So I didn't expect it to be quick, and it wasn't really quick. But if you do have the aero trim level of these cars, those things are insane. I believe they have almost 400 horsepower from that LS2, basically a Corvette engine, which is really impressive. So outside of that modification to the drivetrain, this car is stock. He did recently get an exhaust for it. This car has two mufflers on it, so what he did is he went to a shop, the same shop that I went to actually to have my exhaust done. So what he did is he replaced the secondary muffler with a MagnaFlow muffler and then did a straight pipe from there on out. And I gotta say, it sounds pretty good for a straight six. So the steering is actually pretty quick to respond. And in all honesty, I mean, it is pretty quick to respond. There's not a lot of play in the wheel. I mean, it responds pretty quickly. So the steering is definitely refined a bit. I mean, and again, I'm just cruising at like 70 miles an hour on the highway, and it is completely smooth. This suspension from Saab is definitely a massive step up from the standard GM suspension. So with this being the inline six, your fuel economy isn't actually that bad for a car that's this big. The owner's averaging just a shade under 20 mpg, which really is not that bad at all for a car of this size. in a car of this capability, because it is still rated to tow well over 2 tons, I believe. So you can easily carry anything with you that you'd really need to take a trip or anything. Transmission is a 4-speed automatic. It is very smooth with its shifting. It's not geared to be sporty at all. The gears are definitely very tall, but it shifts extremely smoothly. So I'm definitely happy about that. But this doesn't really feel like a GM car at all, because like I said, the suspension is a lot more refined. The driving experience is much more like a Saab. The owner has owned a ton of Saabs, and he told me that, you know, this car doesn't feel like it's a big SUV. It feels like it's one of Saab's normal cars, and it definitely doesn't feel as quick to respond or as sporty as my car, but I can see where he's coming from, that it doesn't feel like a normal big SUV like it is. So these seats are extremely soft. Like, they are really soft. They're not really as supportive as my seats are, because the side bolsters are a lot more flat, but the leather and the cushioning is so soft. I mean, it's extremely comfortable to sit in. I'm really surprised how well the seats in this car have aged. So this car has 5 seats in it. I'm not sure if there was a 7-seat or 8-seat option for this car, but regardless, you do have a lot of trunk space back there, and of course you can put the second row seats down to get even more. Yeah, I'm just cruising along here. I'm doing 55, and it doesn't feel like I'm doing 55. It's just such a smooth ride, and I'm really impressed by that. Honestly, I didn't expect the ride to be this smooth. So you don't really have any awesome features on the inside that wouldn't be included in the Trailblazer or Envoy or something like that. You do have obviously your climate control, which looks very GM. Yeah, the brakes on this are actually really responsive. I'm really impressed with these brakes for a car this size. I mean, I'm not slamming on the brakes or anything, but they are very responsive. So if you are looking to buy a performance SUV and want the 97X, I would not go with the straight 6, because as the previous owner was telling me, and just based off of common sense, the straight 6 isn't going to be very quick at all. I mean, it's not a performance car. It's very sluggish. So if you can find an Aero, which are probably going to cost you about twice as much as this would, I think you'd definitely be happier with that. But this is a great daily driver SUV if you don't want the crappy GM interior and quality that you would get, and at least you get a touch of Saab and some Swedish styling in the car. But yeah, I really do like this exhaust. It doesn't drone at all. It sounds nice when you're accelerating, but when you're just cruising, you can't hear it at all. It's very nice. I'm glad that he put a MagnaFlow muffler in there and didn't go with a complete straight pipe. So styling wise, I do like this much more than the Trailblazer or the Envoy or the other GM cars that were based on this chassis. The other GM cars, they just look like they were thrown together. They don't look appealing at all. But this, it has the signature Saab grille, the signature Saab look on the front, and the back does look very similar to the other GM cars on this chassis. But I do still like the clear taillights and the subtle Saab features that you see on it. This is a very big steering wheel. I'm not too keen on the looks of it, but it is a pretty thin steering wheel, but it is easy to hold on to and steer. Again, the steering, there's a little bit of play in it, but it is fairly precise, which I do like. So with that being said, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this 97X review. I'm trying to find some more Saabs that I can do some reviews on, especially some like the 97X that aren't necessarily as common as the 93. But I want to give a huge shout out to David, who let me drive his car around this afternoon and see what it's all about. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the car down below in the comments, and I'll see you next time.
Where do I go?